Today I'm talking to Josh Setterfield, who has been on tour with Shannon Noll and the Wolf Brothers and other people. Casey Barnes, that's just come to my memory as well, and has a single out called Better Off. And the single before that was Right About Now, which had over 1 million streams, which I will be talking to you about, Josh. And you're wearing an Elvis top. We'll talk about that as well. Hello.
Hello, how are you doing? Thanks so much for having me.
I'm very happy to speak to you, and I will start with Elvis since it's right there in front of us. So tell me, you're obviously an Elvis fan. For how long? What does Elvis mean?
I've been listening to Elvis pretty much my whole life. You know, my pop was actually a bass player in a band, and he used to play all the old rock and roll kind of stuff. And so I've kind of grown up with it, having it forced down my throat. No, not really, but I absolutely love Elvis. Heartbreak Hotel is just like my favorite song, one of my favorite songs of all time. So yeah, I'm a huge fan. Yeah.
And I suppose, Elvis has a lot to teach performers about stagecraft because, we all know it was revolutionary at the time he did it, but he's still a really outstanding performer in the annals of performance.
Yeah, definitely. Every show I've seen of him has just been really lively, and it could have been a bit of influence or something he was taking, maybe given, but mine are not that. Mine are not fueled by that. But I take influence from that for sure. Like I'm really energetic on stage and stuff like that, and I just love old classics. I'm a huge fan of old classics. 50s, 80s is a huge one for me as well. I'm a massive 80s fan. And now I guess as well. So
yeah. So which bands from the 80s do you like?
Oh, we'll be here all night. My favorite band of all time is Motley Crue. Def Leppard, Poison is a huge one. Let's not go down the road. We'll be here all night. I'm telling you.
Well, because I'm also going to ask you about punk, because I did interview you several years ago, and I remember talking to you about the punk background, but it's been a while since we've spoken. So for anyone who is new to your work, they may not know that you have a background in punk bands. So given that musical background, you've just mentioned Elvis, 80s, where did punk come into that?
Well, I'm really weird when it comes to music. I like pretty much every kind of music. There's not much I don't like. But yeah, so growing up, I listened to a lot of that kind of stuff, but also a lot of country music, like a lot of Alan Jackson, George Strait. Like we did a lot of bonfire parties with family up north, and it just kind of stuck with me and stuff like that. And when I turned into a teenager, I rebelled a little bit, kind of went down this punk kind of route. Huge fan of bands like Rancid and NoFX, and like pop punk bands as well, like Simple Plan. I've actually got them tattooed on me on my arm, and Good Charlotte on this arm. So I kind of just turned into that snotty-nosed little kid who just didn't want to listen to anyone's rules, and you went down that road. So I sang punk music for about almost probably 10 years. My first band was I played drums in a Living End cover band. So it's a long story with me and music. I'm telling you, it's been my whole life. So yeah.
But I do think when you love music, you do tend to love more than one genre, because every genre, including classical music and jazz and all sorts of other things, medieval music has something to offer. And if you are a musician and songwriting and interested in performance and singing, then you can draw influences from so many things if you're alert to it. So it doesn't surprise me that you do love all of that stuff. All that stuff sounds a bit casual for music, which is much more important than just stuff. But I guess the punk side interests me because I think that the discipline of punk music, of having to get it out short and sharp, would be really useful actually for whatever musical branch you want to head into, and also that whole imperative to have to really entertain a crowd that might get a little feisty if they're not entertained.
I can handle a feisty crowd easy. The feistier the better for me. It's strange nowadays not telling people to mosh, you know what I mean? Like swearing at people and stuff like that. Like people just dance and have a great time, but the more wild they are, the more I feel at home. So it still sticks with me in some kind of way.
You could attempt to tell them to mosh. I don't know that it would happen.
Well, I did actually. I just finished a show in Tamworth, and we actually finished the show with a Blink-182 song. And I had people, I just said, all right, whenever this comes back in, every single person needs to jump up and down. I've got the video of it. I'll send it to you. And the whole crowd just bouncing like this at a country festival. It was great. Yeah, it was amazing. Loved it.
There you go. And you do play, with some artists who I think probably could induce some moshing, particularly if it's in a festival environment. So there you go. Bring it all together. So few years in punk, playing drums, but obviously you are a guitarist and you're also a singer and a lead singer when you have a band. So how did you make that progression, I guess, from the back of the stage to the front?
Well, that was only my first couple of years. So I in the punk days, I moved to the singing, and I was kind of did that for about 8 years. So that's kind of where I learned how to control a crowd and, you know, jump around like an idiot, jump off speakers, which I still do in country. But it was, the transition into country was very strange for me, but in a really heartwarming way, you know, like, because I said I grew up with country, so I absolutely loved it. I felt like I was finally home. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like I loved my days in punk and stuff like that. But when I first came into country music, I finally felt at home, and you know, the scene's amazing. All the artists like to get together and write songs and just hang out, where it's really competitive in punk music, you know. So, and it still is competitive in country, like, don't get me wrong, but it just feels like more of a family like vibe. It's hard to explain until you actually experience like the two different ones. But I love where I am now, and honestly I wouldn't go back. I love it.
Well, I think competition is a good thing because it helps produce great work. It helps to keep the scalpel sharp, so to speak. But also, there is that collegiate feeling of, well, there's a big audience there. They love all sorts of different music within the country music umbrella. So it is like a family in that respect, I think. Yeah,
of course.
For sure. So when you first started singing, did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I did. I was a really nervous kid. I didn't have much confidence at all. And I mean, nowadays I still kind of don't, you know. It's kind of, when I'm on stage, it's a different person comes out, you know. It's I literally walk on stage and just feel this fire come in, and I'm just like, this is it, we're going to do it. And then I come on stage and someone comes up to, hey man, we really like that. I'm like, thanks so much. Like, I like to be like quiet. Well, I'm not quiet. Anyone that knows me knows I'm definitely not quiet. But yeah, it's strange, you know. Like I feel like I can yell at 5,000 people in front of me, but the second I'm one-on-one in a conversation, it's kind of like, it's intimidating. It's strange. Yeah, I get it.
But I guess it's part of figuring, it's not so much a part you're playing as a singer, it's an aspect of your personality, which I always find interesting when someone is quite reserved off stage, that it's either you give yourself permission to unleash the beast, so to speak, or it's just a part of you that maybe takes a few years to fully integrate, so that you do get to a point where you're comfortable off stage as well as on.
Yeah, and if you do it enough, you know, like it was a gradual thing. You know, obviously the first couple of years in music, I was nervous to get up there. And you know, one thing though that sticks with me, and it's every single show, no matter if it's a big show or a small show, I still get butterflies before I go on stage, whether it's in front of 10 people or it's in front of like, I don't know how many, of like a couple thousand, you know, like it's still, I get butterflies. The second I walk out there and I sing that first note, it's good. I'm done. I'm in the zone. It's strange, but I love it. It's a great feeling. It keeps me grounded in a way.
Yeah. I always think that's because I totally understand what you mean about the butterflies, but I always say it's because you want to do a good job. If you didn't care about entertaining anyone, you just stroll out there and be like, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, as you said, 10 people or 2,000 doesn't matter. You care. Yeah. And it does take, I think, courage to stand on a stage. I don't do it. I couldn't do it. So I always think anyone who can actually walk out there and do it, it's not the sort of courage that people might think, oh, it's not like, you know, fighting a battle or whatever. But in a way it is, because you're fighting to get people's attention, and you have to make a decision to get out there and be brave. So I think that those regular acts of courage really count for a lot, I think. Yeah.
That's kind of my goal, you know. I go out there and I'm like, right, I'm going to have these people in the palm of my hand by the end of the show. That's my goal. So, but you know, all I care about is making sure people have a good time. You know, that's my whole thing is like, I want people to enjoy themselves, come away from it going, what the hell just happened, in the best way possible, and just have a great time. That's all I'm about.
I do remember Becky Cole talking about the fact that if there's one person in the crowd she can see who's not having a good time, she'll work really, really hard to impress them. Do you tend to look into the crowd as you're performing, or do you just think, all right, I'm putting it out there and they'll either like it or they, you know, I hope they like it?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I do have a similar kind of a kind of mindset to that. You know what I mean? I'm the type of person though, if someone doesn't like me, I'm like, don't care. You know what I mean? Like, I'm standing on this stage. You're going to listen to me until I'm finished, you know? Like, I come at, maybe that's the punk side of me still, like in battle. But yeah, no, I definitely agree with what she said there. I relate to that 100%. So work hard, try and get as many people. But if they're not interested, they don't want to borrow me, whatever.
I had a question in my head, then it's gone completely out of it. Actually, I often like asking questions about the work of being an artist because I think people are interested in hearing about work. And so I'm interested when you have those days where you're not feeling like you've got the nerve, I guess, to get on stage, but you know you've got to play a show and you want to entertain. Is there anything in particular you do to gear yourself up for those performances?
Not really. I haven't had too many times like that. I have a ritual before I go on stage, which is a stupid one, I guess. It's actually not really a ritual. I just pump myself up. You know, I have to have like loud noises around me, like a lot of people are like, a lot of artists, like they need calm, they need quiet and stuff like that. I can't do that, you know. And so if I had like calm and quiet around me, maybe it might be a different story. But I need loud things. I need people coming up screaming at me, and like I get my band, we get in a huddle and we just make sure that everyone's ready to go. And like we do on 3 we say 4 instead of because we're stupid. But you know, it's I haven't really experienced too much like letting a bad day kind of affect the performance, because I feel like the second I'm up there, every problem that's not on that stage is gone. So yeah, you know, I hope I don't ever understand that feeling, but yeah.
Now we'll talk about your new single, which is Better Off.
Yeah.
And Josh, I'm wondering, what are you better off without?
Well, it's funny because I'll just tell you why kind of we released this song when we did, because it kind of answers that question. So this song, we felt like it was time to put it out. I felt like the world had been through so much in the last couple of years. As we know, we don't even need to go into what it's about. But I just felt like it was time the world needed like kind of a sassy song, you know, one that was kind of... Okay, so the song, let me explain it like this. The song is about being better off with a toxic ex-partner, right? Like everyone's got one, a bad breakup or something like that. But to me, it's also about like being better off without fake friends, being better off without COVID, better off not wearing face masks. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of the world needed a song that we were better off singing and not being so serious about all the time. So, yeah.
They're the things you're better off.
That answers the question. Yeah,
it does. Yeah. And the single right before that was Right About Now, as I mentioned at the top, and that has had over 1 million streams. Now, I imagine that number's a little surreal. Like if you see it on Spotify with 7 figures, what does it feel like?
Honestly, it is amazing. So the last couple of years, my goal, especially last year, my goal was to have a song hit 1 million streams. Didn't know how I was going to do it, but I was going to hustle for it. I was going to make sure it happened, and it happened. And just to see it there on the page is just like, oh, like I know it's just a number, you know, but it feels really good. And I wouldn't have 1 million people come to a show, you know what I mean? But there's been enough people listen to the song and care about the song enough, and you know, my fans are absolutely amazing. They blew it up. They jumped in and they just listened to it so much, and they know every single word when I played at a show, and it really shows just like how much of a backing support I have from those guys. That mean the absolute world to me, you know. So to see 1 million streams, it doesn't necessarily. I don't think of it as like, oh, I've got 1 million streams. I see it as like we all got this, you know. Like they're so loyal and supportive, and the fact that they made it happen, you know. I didn't sit there and listen to it 1 million times. Like I didn't do that myself. Like they did this, so it's a pretty amazing feeling, you know.
I think Better Off has over 200,000 already.
I think so. Yeah.
Do you have a new goal of another single with 1 million streams?
Well, I didn't expect that. I had a goal with the first one, but I didn't expect it to actually hit it, you know. So I'm just blown away at the moment, and I kind of achieved my goal, and all. Of course, I want the next couple to hit it as well, but we've got new song after new song coming like really fast. I'm just working with a couple of guys from Canada at the moment on the next one, and I've had like a preview come through of it, and I'm so excited to put it out, you know. So it's going to be a great follow up to Better Off. It's a bit raunchy, kind of mysterious, airy kind of vibes, and I really like it. I'm very, very excited to put it out. So, you know, I don't really have a plan. how the songs are going to go. I hope that they do well, but I just want people to enjoy them.
Once you've had that kind of exposure, though, because it is exposure to a whole lot of people, as you said, it's not you sitting there listening to it a million times, and you have to presume there are a lot of new people coming to you. Does it change how you think about what song you release next? Do you think, oh God, I better have a really upbeat song because that one was upbeat? And do you feel that it may at some point constrain you, I guess, from releasing songs that might be a bit different? Or you just think, yeah, I'm going to trust in what I've created and put it out there, and there are people who want to listen to it? And there are people there now. That's
a really good question, actually. You know what? I probably should think about it that way. I probably should think like, oh, this upbeat song did really well, so I probably should do another one to see if it gels. But I don't really think about it like that. I kind of just put out the songs that I want to put out. A lot of the time, I release songs about how I'm feeling at the time. So like, that would be a smart way of doing it. Yeah, you probably got better on the track, better off, should I say, on the track than I am. But I do it with what I'm feeling at the time, and I feel like what the world needs at the time, which is why we did Better Off straight after Right About Now. I don't know if that answers your question, but it's kind of an open-ended answer, I guess. But I just kind of do it how I'm feeling. So.
Well, and I think what you said about, when you put out Better Off and going with your instinct about what was right, I mean, that's something that's impossible to put in a box and say, here is the clue to it all. But following instinct is a big part of being an artist.
Yeah, for sure.
And I would imagine that you've done it in the past. I mean, you released the song The Way God Made Me, which was a very personal song. That was a few years ago. You've also released, like First Love was a really gentle kind of song, or Young Love, sorry, was a gentler kind of song. So it does seem as though you have followed your instinct about which music is right at the time. And that will continue to stand you in good stead, I'm sure.
Well, I hope so. I kind of vibe off, like I said earlier, what the fans are feeling and stuff at the same time. So like, that's why I felt like Better Off was right for now, So The Way God Made Me, obviously, really dark time in my life, and I just felt like that was my diary to say what I needed to say at the time. So I kind of don't watch what other people around me are doing too much. I kind of just like to do my own thing. It's how I've always been. I came into this scene and I started doing things different to other country artists, but not on purpose. I just kind of did it the way I wanted to do it. So it's kind of the same path we take when we're doing the releases as well. So, yeah. Because
you've been in music for a while and bands for a long time, when you started, of course, streaming was not a thing. So this is now a different way to think about how to release your music. Used to be put out singles, go for an album. You released an album a few years ago. You've also put out a couple of EPs since. Are you now thinking about the format that works best for you, and it may just be to continue to release singles, or are albums something that are still on your mind?
Well, it's funny you say that, because it's just come on the table with my manager and myself at the moment, just talking about maybe doing an album. But I think the way to do it in these times, and I've found, like I just said, how I don't like to follow kind of what's going, but this is kind of something that works really well. I think people's attention spans nowadays are a lot shorter, and that's not saying like bad about anyone. It's just that I find, even in myself, like with one of my favorite bands like releases an album, I kind of listen to the first half of the song and see which ones I like, and then I'll come back to it later. So I think the way to go for all artists at the moment is just releasing singles, if they're doing it that way, but I think how the way we're going to do it is, I will look at an album. I feel like we'll release all the songs from the album as singles, and then when it comes to the end, kind of group them all together. So, yeah, that's another interesting question. You've got some good questions.
Well, I try to make it entertaining. Because people do a lot of interviews. I always think, I should try to come up with some different questions. At the time we're speaking, you've been on tour with Casey Barnes, and I did mention that at the start. That is a great pairing, and I would imagine it's worked really well on tour. But has it been good on tour? Has Casey been a good touring partner for you?
Honestly, Casey he's a down-to-earth guy. He's a really great guy to be around. I'm so stoked with how this tour is going so far. Like I said, really good guy. We've got a bit of a feud going at the moment. Well, not really, but it's just, we've got this play thing going at the moment with whose sunglasses are better. And I've got my sunglasses, which are better than his. So don't pay any attention. Just stuff like that, like he's a really great guy. You can have a joke with him. You can have a laugh. The whole team, like the whole band, is just great. And I'm absolutely loving being on the road with them. It's the first time I've gone out with an artist and done like a really long string of dates. together for a while. But yeah, he's great. He's great. He'll probably badmouth me. No, he wouldn't. But no, honestly, he's really
good. I talk to him. I'll ask him. No,
yeah, do it.
I have no plans to interview.
I said something really bad about him and see what he says.
But I imagine also you've seen. Well, I hope you've seen that audiences are really excited for live music again. Because I was at Tamworth and I certainly felt that. Have you been getting a great response to the tour?
Yeah, it's been really cool. It's strange. Some places are still a bit scared to come out to some shows, but the people that come out are just ready for a good time. You know, it's like they've been starved of it for 2 years, which they have. I mean, I've been starved from playing shows for 2 years, so I completely understand it. There's definitely an electric feeling when you walk into a room and a crowd is just there ready to go. Like this tour so far, I've been doing a couple band shows and a couple acoustic ones. The last 3 have been acoustic, and even just walking out to play an acoustic show, people are just ready to sing along. It's just like they're like, thank you, like life is back. And that's exactly how I feel. So yeah. I vibe off it. Yeah.
Well, long may it continue, because it is so great to have live music back. And now on a completely different note, you do have a home studio, or you did, because you had a home studio and then you had a burst pipe and then you rebuilt the studio. And then in the recent deluges that Brisbane has had, that studio was destroyed again. So given that this is a central tool of being an artist, to have recording equipment and things like that, how I imagine it's been very dispiriting, and I'm wondering how dispirited you still are about it.
Well, it's one of these things now. It's just becoming part of my life. You know, it's like, oh, the studio's going again. This will be the 3rd time I've rebuilt it. I still haven't rebuilt it. It's just down the stairs, just down there, and it's currently a storage room for all my music gear. So the next couple of weeks, I think we've got to rip it all back out and rebuild it up again for the 3rd time. So yeah, what happened was, obviously the Brizzy floods happened, and I live on a hill, so I was stuck in Tasmania. I couldn't get home, and I was just like, oh, my house will be fine. Live up on top of a hill, it'll be fine. Anyway, I came home, and I wasn't in the flood water, but there was just that much water that went straight through my house, the bottom layer. So I lost my studio, had to be replaced. I've been building an arcade, so like with like video games and stuff under the house, outside the studio, and that was all kind of destroyed as well. And yeah, it's been rough, but what can you do? We will rebuild. I know. So it's I've got to get it done, because the new song's got to be done soon. So
you do record everything at home, or at least your vocals, or do you record other things at home as well?
Well, I actually record other artists sometimes. So we do like EPs or singles or demos or something like that. I do all my own vocals here in Australia, but at the moment I've been working with people over in Canada. So at the moment, the new song's being recorded by all Canadian people. Awesome producer I'm working with at the moment, Adam Newcomb, and he's just killing it. He sent me the new song, so excited, and he's just like, all right, it's ready for your vocals. And I'm like, don't have a studio at the moment, so as soon as we get back from Townsville this week, I am straight into the studio and fixing it up. And hopefully I won't have to do it a 4th time. If I hear there's rain anywhere, I'm coming home, even if it's sprinkling, and I'm just going to barricade the entire house every way in. Oh, what a time.
Maybe just put sandbags there permanently. That might be.
Well, I'm thinking I'm going to have to, just for my peace of mind, yeah.
So given that you're producers in Canada, because it's a whole big wide world of producers, there are a lot in the United States, there are quite a few here. How did you find him?
Well, he has been working with some of the songwriters I've been working with at the moment, and they suggested him. I checked out his stuff, and I really, really liked it. It's a big step for me, because I, previous to Right About Now, he did Right About Now as well, and previous to that, I recorded every single thing myself. So like drums, guitars, bass, vocals, any keys, I did it all myself. And with the new song, he is doing everything. So for the first time ever, I've just stepped back and gone, I want to see what you do. I'm a creative control freak, and that just scares the hell out of me. I struggled to say that just then, but anyway, yeah, it's really cool. You know, I kind of came across him through artists that I really liked, and to hear what he's done with my stuff is just absolutely amazing. So I think it's going to be a good working relationship for a couple of years. I think I'm going to get him to do my next couple as well. So I really hope people like the next one. Yeah.
And well, as you just mentioned, all those instruments you play, yes, you are a multi-instrumentalist. So out of all of those instruments, which was the one you played first?
Well, I tried to learn guitar. That's what you're talking about, like which one I learned.
Which one you learned first, yeah.
I learned guitar. I didn't want to be a singer at first. I just wanted to be a guitarist because I didn't have the kind of confidence. And then obviously when I started to play drums in the Living End tribute band, I only did that because the positions were full for guitar. So I learned how to play drums just so I could play with these guys because I really wanted to do it. So it's kind of it was guitar, singing all through it, just trying to sing. And then when I got the confidence to sing, I kind of picked that up. Bass, I don't know where I learned that, but I just kind of picked it up along the way. And probably just watching my like bassists in my bands and stuff like that. So yeah, I can kind of play everything, but I'm not a master at anything. I can just kind of play I can play everything okay. So
yeah, sure. Yeah, right. I totally believe that. I'm sure you play everything to a high degree of proficiency. And Josh, I've had you speaking for a while, so I'm going to wrap it up by reminding people the latest single is Better Off. Obviously, there's new music on the way, which is great, and sounds like there'll be a few singles this year. People can find you on streaming platforms and in shows. So go to your website for tour dates, I imagine.
Yeah. Okay. All that. We're all over it. Yeah.
It was great to talk to you. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks so much.